Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today's BIM REC webinar 14.0, discover how to use change management techniques to build your journey to BIM success. By attending today's webinar, you will learn how a BIM cultural change can be analysed in the context of change management, learn how to enhance BIM coordination processes in collaboration platform and connect commercial information with your design detail. You will learn how change journey can address resistance to BIM, and you will discover how change journey should be prioritized for the desired outcomes. As far as benefits from today's session, well, today's session is going to benefit you by helping you implement BIM more effectively, whether you are a practice, contractor, supplier or an owner, small or large. Today's session should last between 40 to 60 minutes. I will be hosting along with Alain. As always, we do have a ton to get through, so we're going to move really quickly and take questions towards the end of the session. At the end of today's session, there will be a link for the slides. In fact, no, I'll put those in as soon as I receive this link shortly. There'll also be the registration for our next webinar with David Churcher, co-author of PAS 1192.2 and 3, along with a link for the upcoming link of the questions within the survey, my contact details, etc. Please do type in your name and details to the chat box to the right hand side to get all this information. However, if you could do this towards the end of the today's webinar, because there are a ton of questions coming in already. I know I've spoken with a lot of you, as I've said earlier. However, I don't know all of you. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Barry Hassib. I am the Managing Director of BIM REC and AEC Recruitment. We are an essential BIM recruitment partner for individuals and organisations really looking to win with BIM. We are really passionate and devoted to helping candidates, clients in the industry overcome any obstacles you guys are facing throughout your BIM journey. I'm quite often asked why BIM REC hold these webinars. Well, by surveying our candidates, clients and the market, we discovered the industry still has a real long way to go with regards to BIM. As you know, BIM is a journey. Some people and some companies and individuals have had great success, whilst for others it's been a real steep learning curve, and some are yet to start out on their BIM journey. So our goal at BIM REC is to simply, as I say, help you win with BIM and ensure our candidates, clients and the marketplace have access to world-class leaders who are experts within BIM. I'm very proud and privileged to announce we have Alain Waha with us today. Alain is Global Head of BIM and Digital at BuroHappold Engineering. Alain is presenting today on how to use change management techniques to build your journey to BIM success. With that said, I would now like to pass you over to Alain and make him the presenter.
There we go. Right. Good morning. I can't really see who is listening. So good evening as well, and probably good afternoon. This session is meant to be brief and interactive, but here we go. This subject, I think, is of digital and BIM is something that we're all interested in, and I'm speaking here from Bureau in London. The proposal or the question, was set up. What happens if we talk about BIM as a journey? And if it's a journey, then what does formal change management, in the sense of changing organization, not change management in terms of managing the change in design, how does that inform? And once you apply it in the context of BIM, what might that look like? And maybe share some thoughts and insights or experience in doing that, and how the change journey can be prioritized. That is me restating the question. I'm sitting here in BuroHappold in London. Obviously, that informs my perspective. We are worldwide, and we tend to try to tackle difficult projects like an Olympic stadium or a complex geometry designed by an architect in Los Angeles, or an even more impossible exoskeleton structure in Macau. That is the kind of work Bureau undertakes. My story is somewhat different. I like to join the dots for you guys, so also give you a bit of background. I'm a sailor. I like yachts. I like yacht racing, and that's why I'm an engineer. Actually, I didn't design yachts much. I ended up in aerospace, and from aerospace, I ended up in automotive, and then in 2008, I joined the construction industry. So I approached this BIM thing as somebody that has lived digital transformation in other industries previously. And so I am applying digital transformation thinking to the construction industry, from design to construction through global work share and outsourcing. And what came to be is that in construction we are faced with a very interesting journey of digital adoption. I like this slide because it focuses on the fact that we are trying to change things, and we would be condemned to repeat the past if we keep on operating the same way. Why you are changing is different motivations, but I think the overwhelming one that we are experiencing in the UK is that as a sector of the economy, construction is lousy. And the government, the UK government, and previously other governments in Scandinavia and in the US have suggested or hypothesized that introducing digital technique in the form of BIM into construction may address some of the shortcomings, let's call it that way, of the construction industry. So there we are. We are all building BIM plans, and they may look like those, Autodesk BIM deployment plan, or the recommended project execution plan. These are, in broader context, change plan. They are plans of implementing an IT-led transformation to the way we do things. And what immediately arises when you want to change things is that, well, people don't play ball. This little diagram and comic strip is a comic strip that I have been using for the best part of 10 years now. When we introduce change in automotive, for example, trying to implement lean programs, the major components is the change of culture. And immediately we face the children's reaction of change, I don't like it, I don't want to eat any of it. And how do we know that this is something that is applicable to us? Well, every time I look, I find that the change component of the BIM program is something that is key to its success. So here, just last month, the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors published their latest survey in terms of BIM in construction, and there again, at number one, the barrier to BIM collaboration, as measured by North American firms, is the resistance to the culture change. We can see that cost is an issue, that software may be an issue, that lack of competencies are an issue, but time and time again, the resistance to change is the number one problem. Is that a surprise? Well, again, if we look a little bit further away, we find that change is the main reason for failure. 70% of change program end up as white elephants, costing, not delivering. And this technology change, in fact, is not succeeding, not because the technology is not there, but because the change isn't managed. Now, the good news is that change management is not something that is difficult to research. It's not rocket science. In fact, if you go on Amazon, you'll find that there are 5,000 or more books on change. There, by comparison, there's only 1,000 or so in English language on BIM. Academia.edu publishes papers on change are plentiful. And if you then go to Google, you find that actually change is a much lesser subject. BIM is a much bigger subject. So the subject of BIM is of major interest, 56 million hits, but change management, which is treated in books and academia, is less so. So clearly here, we could learn something from books and from academia if we brought it into the subject of BIM. That is the hypothesis that I am following and pursuing. So if you dig out, this is a quick view, there are many frameworks for change. And certainly the first message is, please act on the fact that the change program and the change journey you are implementing with BIM is actually a key success factor. So if all you take away from today is to say, well, actually, I'm going to just make a checklist, again, this framework, and pick any, go to Google and pick any, you'll find this one. This one's quite famous. It dates back to 2000. And I think only recently somebody tweeted it. It is important to have all the elements in place. So here is a tick list. There is the personal dimension, often quoted, saying, well, ultimately people don't want change, I'm willing to change, etc. So here is a change equation. Yeah, this is in the note. This is often quoted and repeated. And it starts to make change. It starts to make sense in the context of BIM, of everything we hear about it's not happening. Why are we not able, why don't we have a greater take-up? And then if you go even further, actually, you find that the journey is probably as important as the checklist. And this research dating back to 2003 proposes a framework of creating a climate for change and then engaging the whole organization and then sustaining the change. And I think that's a very interesting component of the fact that it is a journey, and many other curves are available. Again, I encourage everybody to start thinking, actually this subject is very researched, and whether your organization is small and it's a practice of 50 people, or it's large and you have a 50,000 people construction business, you will find that change frameworks are going to help you progress. So how do we build a good plan if we decide to follow a framework? What does that look like? Well, a good plan looks like a fox in my world, but more seriously, I have developed and used for many years now a set of building blocks. So these building blocks take up different components and streams and take up a number of steps in that journey. If you look across the top, it is about making the change essential, getting ready for it, making it happen, and then sustaining it. And then looking on the side, making a case for the change, getting the stakeholders, getting the top-down view, delivering a solution that actually meets the requirements, and ensuring an effective implementation. So if you put across the top these 4 steps of the journey of change and 5 driver or programs of change, you immediately end up with 20 boxes where you can develop actions around 20 possible things. So, for example, making change happen effectively means you mobilize informally an implementation team, or if you want to build a compelling case for change, and you are getting ready, you are identifying quick wins, for example. So, the scary thing about this framework, and I'm happy to share it, and it is in the notes, is that you now are faced with 20 possible programs just to support one change initiative, and that can quickly escalate in hundreds of actions to take. So it becomes very, very time-consuming potentially to implement all of those. So what to do? Well, this is where thinking about the journey and thinking about the people will help us. So in the case of BIM and most organizations, what I believe is very important is to recognize that this is not crept up on us as a surprise. There has been an evolution, and I think this curve resonates very well with most people that I meet to explain, we've heard of BIM, it's not new. Early adopters talked about BIM helping us solve pretty much all our problems of the construction industry, and probably more as well. And in fact, that didn't happen. And by 2010, in the depths of the economic crisis, I think we were all ready to burn the machines. The reality, of course, is that there is a plateau of productivity. We are all making that journey today. But what's really important is to recognize that not everybody and not every market is at the same position, and not everybody is being exposed to the same messaging. The third component, where I think this becomes actionable, is to say actually change is going to happen fundamentally along two axes. There's going to be a change for the business, and you're going to have a change for the individual. And by just plotting that along those two axes, we can come quickly to the realization that if one gets ahead of the other, we are not going to achieve effective change. So what I mean by that is, if individuals are wanting the change more than the business, we are now in the lower half of the graph. Either the individuals are not driven and no change or slow change will result, or if they're trying to actually drive the change without taking the business with them, they will get frustrated. Conversely, the top-down approach of a business that is driving change without taking people will find resistance. And getting an alignment of the personal and the business into the common desire for change is what finally achieves effective change. So digging a little bit further into this framework, in fact, we can split these components of change even further. And here I've labeled them 1 to 5. You could put a name to them, but you can see that essentially the business will have a need, will recognize a need, and that's a pull factor. And individually, personally, will experience and have a desire for that change, maybe. Getting both the business and the business needs and the personal desire aligned and into the effective change box becomes the key to the game. Likewise, the pull factor of saying, well, I have a vision or I have a desire, but also a personal fit. This also informs and needs to be addressed. Does the business have a plan? Does the plan align to the path that the individual will take through that transformation change? Does the business have a capacity for change? Some businesses are very agile, some are sclerosed. Some individuals have confidence in themselves and are confident for change, some less so. Aligning all these dimensions is actually the source of effective change. And I've symbolized the construction of an effective change plan in making those dimensions all live into the effective change box. Now, what would be nice is to understand where we are. And that's exactly what I recommend that you do. Find out how the people are thinking and how the business thinks about the change. You can do that through a survey. You can do that through web-based survey. In the case of BuroHappold and other clients I've worked with, we do that formally through a web tool. That means that when we're talking about what are the components that are driving change, where does the business want to go faster than the people, which are the groups that are exhibiting resistance, and understanding where that comes from, we're starting to have data. And the data may look like this. This is for another client where all these numbers, fundamentally, it is not important to know whether people are scoring highly or lowly. What is important is to understand whether their personal view of the business and the personal position they find themselves are aligned. So if we look at the first point of the drive for change, we're saying in this case that the drive for change in terms of the business needs is ahead of the people. So we need to make people understand that at a personal level, this makes sense. And whether it's a question of communication or building programs and skills programs to address that. Again, further along, you will see the path to change. This was the lower score in this case. Now, what we're finding is that both the business and personal measure are showing that the score are lower than the others, and that is informing that whether or not people believe in the change at the personal level, they do not see that there is a path that is clearly laid out for them to change or for the business. There is the clarity of the plan is not there. The very next one, capacity for change, was a really insightful and interesting one, because here we have a business response saying actually the individuals are ranking their capacity for change higher than that of the business. So it is saying the agility of the people is much greater than the business. So even if the top mandates it and the bottom wants it, they believe that the structural blockers in the organization is what's going to prevent the change to happen. But I think this is an example of an approach, a change management approach to BIM that in fact is applicable to any change you want to make in business. But it is fundamentally important when the quantum of change we're trying to apply in BIM and the culture of the organization is so important. Finally, we still have these 20 boxes. What do we want to achieve? Which order do I prioritize my boxes? And again, the business outcome then needs to also come into it. Are you focusing on long-term sustainability? Do you need the change to happen fast? Is it a highly complex and risky change? Or are you wanting to reap benefits? What is the key driver? You cannot have everything. So prioritizing the change for the business outcome and understanding where are the blockers for effective change. These are two measurables that can then be brought together to making a cunning plan, which then begs the question, what does it look like? it could take any shape. And that's what really I think is important to accept, is that there isn't a plan for change that is applicable across the industry or across a country or across a problem. It needs to be tailored for each situation. So for example, if sustainability is the key, well, actually you will quickly realize that the elements that you have to prioritize are those that you really need to track, those that you are absolutely gonna deliver, prioritize and structure completely are those. I am not saying that all the other dimensions are not going to be important. I am not saying that the others are not going to happen in any small way or major way. I am saying if your priorities is around sustaining the change for long term, then pick those two dimensions, translate, and you have a heat map. And we're starting to say, okay, my actions are going to be addressing the barrier to change, and my priorities are going to be aligned to what the business priorities are. So again, if we look at understanding this map and creating actions, apologize, here we go. What is key here is to understand, for example, what does this alignment look like, and therefore, if you can just express it in those simple words, you will quickly be able to say, okay, this is how I'm going to treat this problem. This is another example. So if you're looking at the personal desire for change and the business need, you just say, well, actually, if the response is low in terms of there is no personal desire and there's no recognition of a business need, what people are saying is, don't bother me with any of those initiatives. This is yet another one. This happens a lot in big business. They have 60 initiatives going in parallel, and most people say, oh yeah, well, yeah, we've seen it before. Okay, so there we go. You already know what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to gain credibility for the initiative. You're going to have to prioritize. You're going to have to say to people, actually, people have stopped believing you in your initiative. Cut 63. Those 3 will be successful. Regain credibility. Give them a reason why this time it is different. You'll also need to encourage their personal design, because once they've understood the business need and accepted that the business is serious this time, they'll resist and say, yeah, now I get it. Yeah, but don't start with me. There are plenty of other areas. You know, if you want to do BIM, why do you want to start with the MEP division, or why do you want to start with the planners? Why can't we do it somewhere else? So that immediately informs in the kind of initiative and actions you're going to have to take with that group. It says, well, it's going to have to start somewhere, but more importantly, what is there in it for them? Well, how do I encourage the desire so that they recognize that they need to have a personal involvement in this change initiative? Conversely, if their personal desire is high and the company is doing nothing, essentially that's time people go for the exit. So that one is very important to capture that energy and make these people your champion. So again, by having that grid simply in your mind and creating your action plans to fit the circumstances, to finally get to a point where you can say, yes, we have to do this, they want to be part of it, and then on that dimension of the business need and the personal desire, you have reached the effective change box. So I've realized that I've run ahead in my 30 minutes, and I'm still putting everybody my animations. But I've I've consumed the first 30 minutes and I'm very aware that everybody is listening without being able to ask many questions. The key thing for me is to recognize that change and building response capability to change and getting everybody embracing that change will actually, in the end, be the critical component to your success. And it is, as it says on the slide here, it's not going to be the people that are the smartest with the technology or that have spent the most on investing in smart tools or even in smart programs, but those that have done that in the most intelligent way, considering the change dimension, that actually are going to be the survivor of this transformation. So at this point, I realize I've spoken for the best part of 25 minutes without stopping. So I'd like to open the conversation because otherwise we will just start repeating the argument.
Well, first off, thank you for sharing. There's certainly a lot of content within that to run through in such a short period of time. So the slides are available for people live on this event now. They're to the chat box to the right hand side. Certainly worth going over the slides again. With regards to questions, we've had quite a few questions come in. If people do have other questions as well, please do put them to the right hand side. You will see a orange rectangle. If you click on that, that should open up the box, then you can ask questions to the right hand side. With that said, are you fine to fire away with some questions that have come in, Alain?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic, thank you. First question. How would you use Rogers' bell curve to streamline your BIM adoption?
Right, yes. So Rogers' bell curve, if I'm not mistaken, is the curve relating to early adoption, early adopter, late adopter, laggard, and I think it correlates very well with the Gardner hype curve that we that I used earlier on in the presentation. I'll try to bring it back up. Here we go. So the early late adoption cycle are typically that the Rogers bell curve was used to inform strategy. What kind of, is there an early adopter strategy, a fast follower, etc. So it's really to be used in the strategy setting phase. What do you want to achieve with BIM, and how you're going to compete with BIM and digital? It certainly relates to the fact to this bell curve, relates to this hype curve.
Sure.
That is now on the screen.
Sure.
And what's important, I think, to recognize is that in the population of people that you have, you would then can play back that the early adopter is often perceived as the carrier of the peak of inflated expectation. You know, they are the people that adopted early, came with the messages that everything was going to happen and was going to solve the problem. So they are related, but I think they inform maybe the messaging and the distribution of your population if you have a larger business. Sure,
fantastic, thank you. How do you define BIM success?
Right, I think that question, yes. That question has two components. You know, how do you define and what does it look like? Sure. for us? Yeah. So I think it's a key part of the business. I'm just gonna of saying, well, actually, quantifying the business case, reviewing it, building the business case is about building a case for change. So if you're not clear about what BIM success looks like, and that's not being communicated, then change is going to be hampered. So
sure.
That's the first thing. So there's a lot of work to be done with the stakeholders to have a definition of success that everybody buys into, and you can check later on. It says, okay, I get the vision. The vision makes sense, and a lot of work, I believe, needs to be made to merge the vision that people have of their business with the BIM dimension of what success looks like, because
sure.
BIM success in isolation does not exist,
Sure.
because businesses are not selling BIM.
Yeah.
They are selling buildings.
Sure.
They are selling operation, or they are selling design. And so I think that's very important. And now we've moved into what does BIM success look like. And at Bureau, for example, we've thought about this deeply, and we have two answers, interestingly. The first answer is that success for us will be achieved in the first part, once actually we've stopped talking about BIM.
Sure.
Because ultimately it is an IT transformation, and when you tell me I will send you an email, we don't celebrate that. In fact, we will probably say I'll send you a mail, and I expect that to be an email.
Sure.
And we need to be in a position where BIM is the business as usual. That's how we do work, and everybody is in that workflow, and that's how it works. So that for us is the first success point. Is okay. That's how we work. Why are you even saying, do you use BIM? Yeah, of course. Do you also want to know whether we use computers? That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And then that allows to separate the second part to say, well, okay, well, what does it do for us? And we have metrics around actually BIM success for certainly the population, for example, of engineers at BuroHappold, is when they are freed from doing the things that they don't like to do, which is the repetitive design tasks around translating data, moving data, clicking away, and they are afraid to create, imagine, and are boosted by the technology, so that the data just flows and informs their design processes, and that more options are anticipated, and that the design cycles are faster, and we can review the documentation quicker because it's been automated in part, or it's been constructed in a programmatic way. That means that at the end, all the journey of reviewing everything is made smooth. So that's what BIM success looks like to BuroHappold in the first instance.
Fantastic, thank you. Another question: how do you manage and communicate the expectation of BIM across the organisation?
So I think there's a management of expectation and communication, and so managing is back to defining BIM success.
Yeah.
I think it is critical that everybody understands what is going to be possible, what is not possible, and potentially not necessarily in a formal ROI point of view, but say, well, this is what is at stake, this is what we are committing, and therefore this is what are the expectations, the realistic expectations that we should ask for.
Sure.
And communicating that, I think, is the work of everybody that is involved in the program of change. And it obviously needs to come from the top. It needs to come from the managers and the experts and the change agents that you have in your organization to make sure that everybody has that same coherent vision of what to expect from them.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Who were your targeted groups, and how long was the uptake process?
Right. So targeted groups. I think you build a program around momentum, and we got early the view that there were areas where we could have quick wins. So that's of course a first part. But then immediately behind that, you need to identify some of the exemplar people that you need to win over. Your influencers.
Sure.
That and typically those people are those that need to be taken by the hand, and you really have to understand what is it that in your framework of personal versus business, where do they sit at in the framework? And you know, I go back to this to this diagram here. We found that a lot of people, for example, in BuroHappold, they just they had no problem with the change, but nobody actually had explained to them how that was going to make a better building.
Yeah, sure.
Or how was that going to make their life simpler?
Sure.
Didn't connect to a desire or a fit. Once they understood that, they had every confidence.
Sure.
They just needed the plan. Give me the plan, and then they got involved naturally. So it was finding those people within this map, this framework map, to understand, why are these people not engaging?
Yeah. So start with the end in mind, huh?
As we often.
God, Stephen Covey saying.
So yes, the end in mind is, I suppose, the constant here.
Yep, no, very much.
How long? I think there we have to manage expectations, and I like everyone to really think, you know, honestly, you know, what should our expectations be for it, and where are we in the adoption curve. I'd like to, you know, quote a couple of figures. You know, for example, music streaming, right? We all remember music went digital in 1985, so 30 years ago. Second, the iPod was introduced in 2001. And, you know, streaming was really only a 2003, 2004 story. So here is an industry that we hail as a, you know, champion of digital transformation, and only in February this year did streaming sales overtake physical sales, and only in North America. So it takes 10 years for a highly consumer-led, technology-led, agile industry to transform from majority legacy to majority digital.
Sure.
Construction industry, you know, I don't think they're going to do it faster than music.
Yep.
Right? I think that this transformation is going to take a very long time.
Sure.
And then we have to take a perspective, you know, are we still at the point where we are saying, oh yeah, well, to connect your iPod to iTunes, you have to have a Mac? Or what format have you encoded your music? Is it a IAC 128 or etc.? We're still very much at that kind of level of conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, wow, that sounds like email in the, you know, late 80s.
Yeah.
And of course now consumers just connect to email with their iPad when it got out of the box.
Yeah.
How long will it take for us to be at a point where really this digital work is plug and play?
Yeah.
We are nowhere near plug and play.
Sure.
And so manage the expectation to say we are on a journey. It is starting to yield benefit, but it's clunky.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Very much so. Okay, fantastic, thank you. Another question: how to use change management techniques for BIM success to engage not only the firm but also the firm's strategic partners?
Right. No, that's. I think that's a very valid question, because ultimately here I've really focused on how I deal with one firm, but how do you deal with a project or with the collaborators? And I think that exactly the same approach is going to have to happen, but we won't have the luxury of doing a survey and ask people, you know, how do you feel about this?
Sure.
Which is a great position to be in when you are, you know, managing the deployment in a larger organization. It may be that we will get to a point where we say, look, to effectively work together, let's align our change process. I think we are not yet at a point where we're strongly collaborating in construction, that to say we'll have an open view of supplier cultural fit as we have in automotive.
Sure.
But certainly that would be a very fantastic approach.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you. What could a good technique what could be a good technique to gain a team's confidence while they feel left backwards and stressed before entering the BIM boat?
A good technique to gain team confidence.
Team's confidence.
Yes. No. Here we are. You know, we are really looking at helping and holding hands, kind of.
Yeah.
And I think maybe in that case, this framework of this business versus personal doesn't really work, and we will have to go back. I mean, earlier on, let me just quickly see if I can go. You know, I think you back towards, you know, building confidence, like getting a child to walk. You know, I think that's more the kind of approach we have to have.
Yeah.
But I think what's really good and really important about that question is to recognize that there are many personal reasons why, and confidence is one, why, you know, that pain of the change need to be recognized and then need to be addressed.
Sure. Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you. A good one here. When is the moment to give up whilst trying to introduce the change? Is there a moment, and where is the limit?
When is the moment to give up? Where is the limit?
Never. Never a good time to give up.
Yeah, you know, I think when to give up is a personal question.
Sure.
One.
Yeah.
And but I think, you know, I would really ask myself, you know, if I'm about to give up, it sounds to me like the change component has won, and therefore should be put back front and center, and you know, press the reset button.
Sure.
And say,
yeah.
You know,
so.
Why am I even considering giving up? And you know, in fact, yesterday one of our champion was presenting. She was presenting a fantastic slide about Muhammad Ali, and said, you know, how many times did I want to give up in training, but I remember the sweet smell of victory. You know, and I think maybe that equation needs to be revisited in that case.
Yeah.
What's the limit? I think it's a really interesting question, because in fact, as you saw in my presentation, I never said, you know, capacity for change. I am not really addressing capacity for change. I take capacity as a given.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to make sure that the capacity for change of the individual and the business don't exceed each other, because that creates the frustration or the resistance. Now, there is a different view that many practitioners in change management take. It is actually you can increase the capacity for change of the organization. And therefore, if I understand well the question, raise the limit in that sense.
Sure.
And I think that would be the subject of another seminar.
Sure.
Because it's even more fundamental, and I suppose it allows me to lay clearly in front of everyone that my hypothesis is we have a lot of untapped potential for change and capacity for change that we are not tapping into because we're not aligning the capacity that we already have in the organization and the individual.
Sure. No, fantastic. Thank you. I know this one has been asked, but I'll ask again. Would you start bottom up or top down?
And that's, I think, great question. And the answer is both. But you cannot answer if you don't ask the question.
Sure.
In the framework, where you sit in your different quadrants will tell you what is the problem. If we're in a frustration area, we're going to have to start top. You're going to have to start at the top.
Yeah.
And it's not a top down. In this case, it's the top catching up with the bottom, if I may say. And you're just not getting it. Bottom up. I think it's really important that the whole organization has to be engaged. Yeah. And so the different actors have different roles to play in that delivery of change.
Sure.
So you have to have everybody engaged.
Yeah.
So whether you start, you cannot start everywhere, but you have to understand that you have to start with everybody in mind.
Sure. No, fantastic. Thank you. A couple more questions. I'm cautious of time. Is change management more about the stick and less about the carrot, i.e. Are changes in contractual and procurement the real catalyst to improving how the industry performs?
Right. So I think there are two questions.
Yeah.
Is it more about stick and carrot?
Yeah.
Or change management, stick and carrot? I think clearly it's neither. It's very clear here that we are analyzing and saying, what does the carrot look like? What does the stick look like? Which is the one that is causing the change to happen or creating barriers to change? Ultimately, a stick doesn't make everybody move, and quite the contrary. You get a lot of people resisting change when they see a stick. So I think change management, hopefully by the end of this presentation and with the notes that are provided, will look much more multidimensional than stick and carrot.
Sure.
The change in contractual procurement, the catalyst for improving how the industry performs, I think that that's really an interesting question, and different markets would I expect respond differently. Certainly what we know in the UK is that the catalyst, what has really made the take-up of BIM and digital technologies happen in the construction industry is the change in the contractual and procurement. The mandate of the British government that we wanted to see this approach taken as of next year. Yeah. So it is definitely the catalyst. And the question arises, is that the best way to get adoption?
Sure.
And certainly, I think we have experts around the table that analyze that very question.
Yeah.
If you are a policymaker, do you make it mandated or not? What is your expectation? And it opens up a very vast subject. But I think in the subject of change management, it is really, I think, important or an interesting question. When you are affecting the change, are you trying to comply? So you are essentially complying to UK level 2 or comply to the contract.
Sure.
Or are you actually trying to affect the change to to get the benefit, the broader benefit, and you have a good benefits case and a good picture of what change looks like. And my expectation, and this is not research, but I'd invite people to comment, but I noticed that all firms that go towards complying end up not delivering to the program's expectations.
Right, okay.
Because ultimately it becomes a tick box of, do you have an ERP system? You know, if suddenly the British government had said, car industry, from the 1st of January 2000, we will only procure vehicles from car companies that have a full ERP in place that looks like this and meets these standards and are collaborative, and the supply chain is talking and all the parts coming to your car plants. You know what? We would have ended up with an automotive industry that has lots of redundant IT systems that achieve not very much.
Sure.
What we found is that long before the construction industry, the car industry said, hey, if we manage data in a collaborative way and increase the speed of information exchange, the capital employed in our business more than offsets the investment we're making in IT. We're increasing customer satisfaction and overall EBITDA performance. We are choosing, not because we want to comply, we are choosing to invest against a robust business case. And if you are the change manager for that program and you do not deliver to that business case, you will be fired.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see more of that in the construction industry.
Sure, you know, fantastic. That sounds good to me. One more, I'm cautious of time now. Well, one more question if you can. Are you fine for one more?
Of course.
Fantastic. Change towards BIM compliance appears to have a large component of change management in early stages, but requires flawless systems, at least on paper. Which plans or tools would you call the more comprehensive at the time of implementation, so we can show progress and return on investment to company owners?
Right. I think the first part of the question around the compliance is the point we were just making.
Sure.
I think if you chase compliance, is not the spirit of the law. I don't think it's the spirit of the mandate, and I think it ends up costing you money. I'm saying this from personal experience, not research experience, but sure. Certainly if you are constructing a complex building and you have in your contract, I'm gonna build this, and the owner has said you will use a BIM process and there will be a BIM model, and you've just read, okay, I will have a BIM model. For sure, your whole organization is just going to build that asset as it always did, and then somewhere, there will be a team with systems making a BIM model.
Sure.
You will achieve zero. You know, it would be accidental that the guy that is on his back break from the BIM model team would bump into the construction teams and say, hey, you know, you're going to run into a problem in 3 weeks' time when you're going to try to fit this because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, this sounds insane, but I have seen time and time again BIM program that looked a little bit like that. We are doing BIM, but actually did not address the fact that if you're going to get the benefit, you're going to have to change a lot more things than just do BIM.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the second part of the question comes in about the ROI.
Yeah.
I think it's very important to get to judge that right. Are you going to construct a really complicated ROI model, which may or may not inform the value of your investment?
Yeah.
And it's quite comprehensive and quite difficult to do. Or are you going to do what actually most other businesses have done? It says, are there one or two compelling business cases for making the investment?
Sure.
Can we identify those two compelling business cases? Because there are all sorts of associated benefits that will come through.
Yeah.
But can we focus on those two compelling ones and deliver those two? And if we can do that then we will have put ourselves into a virtuous circle. And that would be my recommendation in building the business case in the toolbox that I described, and picking this, build the business case, quantify the business case. Don't try to do something that's really complicated. Don't read into there that this needs to be highly fancy. What it is about is finding a compelling one.
Sure.
You know, if I spend $15 million on an ERP system to get cars ordered and delivered into the UK, do I get an annual financing cost saving recurring of $30 million?
Sure.
Meaning that I have a 6 months payback and then an ongoing recurring benefit. Yes, you do? Fine. Build it. You can't find a compelling business case that has like 3 or 4 times 3 or 4. You are already entering in the areas of risky, and there isn't really a good business case behind this idea.
Sure.
Go and look somewhere else in your business for a better business case.
Sure. Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you, Alain. If there are one more question, or conscious of time, actually, one more question, a quick one.
Quick one.
Is BIM a PLM for AEC market?
Yes. Now we are a long way from business change management.
Yeah.
Certainly, drawing a parallel between automotive and consumer goods and construction is an interesting one, because you see that there is a lot of value generated through PLM. So PLM, for those that may or may not be familiar with the acronym, Product Lifecycle Management. The idea that an information system is put in place to manage the information from design all the way to manufacture and then ongoing distribution. So in FMCG, these products are very interested, and then the car industry went on to develop those. For example, the difference between a PLM and an ERP is to say an ERP is going to manage all your resources, but once the car is made, the car is made. A PLM is going to be looking at what are the car parts looking like, and how does the car look like when it's in the dealership, and etc. And so the software vendors from Siemens PLM or Dassault PLM systems are making a case that the approach is valid for the construction industry if we're going to integrate end to end.
Right.
So in that sense, maybe a better way of thinking about it is that building information modeling now, not management, modeling, is a set of technology that allow us to represent in the digital domain the built asset. And then suddenly that means that we have technologies that we didn't have previously to apply as a above layer on top of a PLM system or an ERP system, and saying, now when I'm managing an invoice at the construction site, I'm not managing the invoice, I'm actually managing what's on the invoice. And which is something that an ERP is very effective, or a PLM is very effective at doing, because suddenly you know how many tons of concrete have been poured rather than how many tons of concrete have been built for.
Sure. Fantastic. Thank you. I had to throw that one in to you. The chap Alex is all the way in Sydney, so it's 1:05 in the morning for him. So I thought it's only courteous to throw the question that Alain asked. Well, once again, thank you. How can people contact you if they have any questions or would like to discuss anything with you? Is there a slide there?
I've put the address in the pack.
Fantastic. They're going to receive
my name at BuroHappold.com. It's a great place to start.
Superb. Well, once again, thank you. I really appreciate you giving your time freely today to have this hold this webinar. It's really appreciated. There's quite a few thank yous coming in on the box there as well. Yeah, no, so many thank yous there. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add at all?
As you just pointed out, people can definitely contact me. Here are all the details. I knew I had them somewhere.
Yeah, I knew they were there somewhere.
They can, and they're very welcome. And yes, you will find me at Cows Week in 10 days' time. So everybody is invited to come and bring there.
Well, once again, thanks, Alain. Thank you, everybody, for attending live on today's session. I hope you've taken away some great content from today's session. Our next webinar, as mentioned earlier, is with David Churcher, co-author of PAS 1192.2 and PAS 1192.3. This will be held live on Tuesday the 11th of August at 3 p.m. BST, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I really look forward to welcoming you live to the event on the day. If you have any questions for me at all, my contact details are available here, or would like to understand how BIM REC can help you or your organisation really win with BIM, please send me an email to the address barry@bimrec.com. For candidates live on this webinar or watching back, if you're not actively looking, if you're not actively on the open market, however, just open-minded in exploring new opportunities or the potential to see what is available out there to you, please don't hesitate to either drop me an email or call me on my mobile number, +44 7725 325 010. Also for clients, if you're looking for expert resource, I'm confident that the team at BIM REC can help. We work with some amazing talent, so if you're looking for people from really bright students through to director level specialists, please do not hesitate to either drop me a line or call me again on my mobile, +44 7725 325 010. If we can help, fantastic. With that said, until next time on the 11th of August, enjoy the rest of your morning, your afternoon or your evening. Take care. I look forward to welcoming you to the next BIM REC webinar 15.0. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.